You know, I say it every year. There has to be one movie that releases, whether it be Mandy or Malignant, that is the embodiment of just the most effed up thing you'll experience all year, to be fairly honest. So, you know what? Let's talk about Barbarian and why that is. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Movie Emporium's spoiler-filled discussion of Barbarian, the newest film from director Zach Cregger. So, this is my official review, but it is a spoiler discussion, so just be aware I'm going to go into major details for this movie because you can't really talk about it without talking about the major details because this movie is insane. So we'll start out with a kind of, synopsis. So, Barbarian basically stars Georgina Campbell as Tess. She shows up in an Airbnb and unknown location at the moment, and she actually walks up to the Airbnb and finds out that another individual has somehow reserved the same Airbnb. There's been a mistake. That character, of course, is Keith, played by Bill Skarsgård. And in the process of everything, you think this movie is going to be kind of a kidnapping movie where Bill Skarsgård is basically the bad guy. But in the process, she discovers a kind of cavern, which leads to more and more mysteries, which leads to a revelation that involves some crazy things. Like I said, I'll talk about in spoilers, but it also involves Justin Long and is actually having some trouble with sexual misconduct problems. And in the process, actually has to travel to this location, this house, and finds the discovery and stuff like that. So with this movie, I went in completely blind. I didn't watch the trailer. I knew nothing about it. And I think that's for the best, to be fairly honest, because if you don't really know anything about it, you go in maybe knowing the synopsis, which is, you think it's going to be Bill Skarsgård being, kidnapper and Georgina being put in a cage or whatever. But if you watch the trailer and then watch the movie, it does spoiler it a little bit, so we'll get into details on why. But I didn't know what I was getting myself into. It's September. Usually films aren't that great, so I expected this to be a pretty terrible film. But of course, you hear the reviews and you hear how great it is, and that it's this year's Malignant, and that it's this year's Possessor or Mandy or something like that. So you know what? That gets me excited because I not only love those films, Malignant not so much, but the other films I love a lot. So, with that said, after watching this movie, it's right there with those four films. It really is. It's that this year's that film where it holds no bars, it holds nothing back. It's disgusting. It's violent. It does things that you don't expect. It goes places you don't expect. Richard Brake is in this movie, which I was not expecting at all, and I got to give it to the director and the cast. They really went for it, and for better or worse, this isn't what I would call a great film, but it is highly entertaining for what it's doing. It really is. Once the revelations start happening, we'll talk about that in a second, it holds no qualms. It really feels like it has a lot of social commentary, which horror films do, about women in the workplace and about, the ideas of, an individual going to some place and meeting a guy he knows nothing about and comes off creepy and stuff like that, and they start trusting and things start happening. This also takes place in Detroit, in the middle of the really bad area of Detroit, so that is a really interesting commentary about, be careful where you go and what you visit and stuff like that. There's also a homeless guy, which plays a pretty big part in this movie, and it just has a lot of social commentary with what it's trying to do, but I have to give it to him. It is actually quite an entertaining film. It really is. It's shocking and everything, and that's the non-spoiler review. I really enjoyed it. And so there's the non-spoiler stuff. I want to get that out of the way. If you don't want to hear about the spoiler territory, don't go any further. But you just know that's where that's where I land on the non-spoiler stuff. I really enjoyed this film. So if you want to see the film without spoilers, definitely stop here. So spoiler territory. So this movie is definitely something that is unconventional when it comes to horror films. I would put this in like The Cabin in the Woods, or I would put this in like any film that subverts expectations, because this movie really, literally starts out as a horror trope where we have this young woman. She's in the rain. She's in the middle at night driving up to this Airbnb at this house that you don't realize is in the middle of a very downtrodden part of Detroit, which is, we've seen pictures of and stuff like that. She walks up the door, like I said, it's raining. She can't get in. She finds out the key's missing. And this is when we're introduced to Bill Skarsgård's character, Keith. Basically, it's exactly what you expect. Tess is very concerned. She's like, I'm going to go find my own place. And in the process of everything, you start to kind of get this comfortable suspicion that Keith is not on the level. Just how he acts, the thing with the bottle of wine, the thing with the cup of tea, it's all the horror tropes that you come to expect. Maybe he's going to poison the tea or drug the tea, the same thing with the alcohol. Just the fact that he's at this house and just it seems so suspicious that he's there. It just seems convenient. There's a lot of moving pieces that, like I said, will subvert your expectation later on. But I really loved what was going on because I felt these two characters really connected with one another. There's a lot of, great chemistry between the two actors. I felt like they really worked off one another. Basically, you start to get more and more uncomfortable as the story moves along because you think Keith is like up to something. Like I said, when Georgina goes and meets the documentarian and she comes back, she basically, in the process, finds, she opens up looking for toilet paper. She opens up the door and she finds a basement and she goes down and gets toilet paper, and then she finds a cavern, a walkway by using this rope. And this is when the movie starts completely subverting your expectations, which is what I wasn't expecting, where you walk into the cavern and you see what's great about this movie is it has like a puzzle box where the box opens more and more and more as the movie moves along. So Tess's character walks in there because she goes in there and she sees like this room with this bed and this camera and this bucket. So obviously it's got to be the fact that, somebody's been kidnapped down here, that what's going on, this is weird. And of course Keith comes along and he goes down there and tries to figure out what is happening, and this kind of stops talking to Tess, which I thought was really fascinating. Now we're really thinking, oh, Keith's going to be the guy who's down in he's the barbarian, he's going down there, he's going to kidnap her and stuff like that. But that doesn't happen. That's what's so great about this movie. That doesn't happen. The simple fact that we finally see Keith and he's on the ground, he's like, somebody bit me and blah 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 blah, and Tess is like, what the hell? And the fact that Tess goes down there and that she is like that trope of a character where she just goes a place. Even in the theater, you're listening to people talk and they're like, what are you doing, woman? You don't go down there. She is like so smart in the beginning, yet she's doing such stupid tropes. It's actually quite amazing. I give a lot of credit to Georgina Campbell for dealing with those tropes, because it really is a message about females in horror films and how just like stupid they're played off, but just kind of how smart she sometimes seems to be, but most of the time she's not. And she goes down there and Keith's on the ground and he's like, I've been bit. And all of a sudden we see this like crazy creature thing that we have no idea what it is, and it like attacks, kills Keith, and Bill Skarsgård's out for the count. And I'm like, oh my god, what is happening? And everybody's like, what just happened? And it's a naked woman, but it's like, what is happening? Yeah, then it like, the creature woman, whatever, because she has boobs and stuff like that, she's like basically screams at Tess, and then it cuts, like snap cuts to Justin Long's AJ character, and everybody's like looking around, it's like, what the hell just happened? Everybody's laughing, because this movie's very funny, it has a lot of funny tropes in it, but people are like, what the hell just happened? And so we're introduced to AJ, who at first I'm like, why is he even in this movie? Justin Long has been in a couple of horror films like Drag Me to Hell and of course Jeepers Creepers, but he basically is an individual who is being accused of sexual assault. And what I love about this character is it fits into the idea of Barbarian itself, about him trying to deflect the fact that he's a terrible individual. His pilot is being canceled. He's being accused as well as being sued by the woman that he is being accused of raping. And he's trying everything in his power to like deflect the situation. So he is technically a barbarian himself, where he just doesn't understand how crappy and disturbed he really is. And he, we find out the stories. He's very much like playing off like the Harvey Weinstein of this world, where he's part of that Me Too movement, or not, he's part of that like cancel culture movement and stuff like that, which is what the story plays into. We also find out that he's going to lose all his stuff, his house, and he's going to lose all his money in months. And so he decides he's going to go back to the house that he owns in Detroit, which happens to be the same house that these, Tess and of course Keith were in. And what's great about what his character does is he questions what anybody's even doing there, for one, and he basically finds the cavern with the the door and the bed and the camera and stuff like that. Instead of being like, what the hell's going on, let me call the police, blah 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 blah, he basically starts measuring with a tape measure, trying to see how much footage and how much he can sell this property for, because he's found more footage and yardage in his house. And it's just the scummy nature of how great Justin Long is the standout of this movie, by the way, because he just absolutely delivers on just the insanity of who this character is, what this character is, and what he represents. And I absolutely loved what he was doing. But he gets to a point where he finds the rope and the door, or he finds the other door, and he keeps tape measuring and stuff like that. It's just the nature of how stupid and how just nonsensical BS of a character he is, but so great. And he comes across this room that has basically a bunch of bedding and this video of this woman breastfeeding a kid. And then he's attacked by the creature, which is an amazing thing because we find out later on how messed up that is. And in essence, the cavern is gigantic. It feels like it is like sprawls the whole city block of this, of this place, this downtrodden Detroit. And he is thrown by this creature, which we find out is a woman, or the mom, I guess you could say, into a pit where Tess is at. And we find out that this creature basically treats these individuals like a baby because it's a mom character. We see it's a really disfigured mom, similar to, like, not the joke, but similar to like Goonies with sloth and stuff like that. It looks like that a little bit. But what's great is he is AJ basically is trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening. The creature puts a bottle down to Tess and AJ to feed him like a baby, and AJ decides not to do that. He's actually pulled up and brought into that room where we saw earlier and starts to be breastfeed. It's amazing. I give a lot of credit to Justin Long for going for it. He's a guy that will do anything for everything, and it's amazing. I give a lot of respect for that. But Tess is able to escape, and she's able to get out of the situation by escaping through that window we saw earlier. And of course, we finally see the actual creature, and this is when she's actually approached by the homeless guy who tells her that this was a terrible situation, that she only comes out at night, she needs to leave, and she's like, I need to go save this person. And you think Tess would be smart enough. Tess is actually kind of smart. She's like, I gotta go save him, blah 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 blah. And basically what ends up happening is it flash cuts to the past, to where we see Richard Brake's character, and he's going to a store. He needs diapers and padding, all that stuff, plastic and whatnot. And you come to find out that he's keeping people hostage. He follows a woman, which he's going to abduct and rape, and it's very disturbing stuff. But I love the way it's shot. It's like, it feels so, like, everything's so long and so, just straight and edges and stuff like that. The way the car's portrayed and then how he opens the keys. And we don't really see much of him till like later on when Keith actually, AJ escapes and goes and finds another alcove where we find the Richard Brake character, who's now old. He's been kind of succumbed to this room, and in the process of everything, he basically AJ gives him like this dresser, which he opens up and it has a gun in it, and this Richard Brake character kills himself. And basically from that point on, AJ has this gun. He ends up shooting Tess's character. They're both, of course, chased by this, creature woman, which is great because, at first it's so crazy because Tess tries to run into the house and she gets shot by AJ. This creature chases after him, and of course the homeless guy saves him. Says that that this creature basically is an incest woman who was basically Richard Brake's character raped someone and then he raped the kid. So incest, and it's just disturbing. Like I said, it's this year's like Don't Breathe or Mandy. It just goes to places that it's willing to not be apologetic about. And he's like, oh no, she'll never, because they're like by near a water tower. He's like, oh no, she'll never come after us. And she comes after him and tears off the homeless guy's arm. And the two, Georgina or Tess's character is injured from the gun wound, and AJ, they run up the big water tower and stuff like that. And AJ, being the scumbag that he is, to deflect this woman, he actually pushes Tess, who's now like severely hurt, off the water tower. And the creature woman, God love her, she jumps and actually saves Tess's character, who falls on top of the woman and somehow survives. I don't know how Tess survives, but she survives. And what's great is you think, oh yeah, AJ and Tess are going to get out of the situation. No, the creature woman is still alive and actually attacks AJ's character, rips his head off, or actually presses her fingers into his eyes and pulls his head open, like just pulls it open because she has super strength. And of course, Tess at the very end kills the woman just because she knows that this creature is in pain. And it's just, it really feels like, a daughter just putting like an injured mother out of her misery and stuff like that. And that was really sweet and it's really endearing, and you know that the creature, the woman, is actually a victim of the whole situation. She's been locked down in this area and she doesn't know like a normal civilization, normal life. And then of course there's like credits, and once she shoots him, it goes straight to credits, and then there's some like, you know, some scenes of Tessa's character walking away, and that's the end of the story. I gotta tell you, you know, I don't know if there's an end credit sequence. Maybe there is, but there was some, like I said, mid credit stuff there. I had to think about whether I really enjoyed this movie very much, but after thinking about it, giving, you know, about 24 hours to think about, I mean, you got to give it credit to, once again, to the director and the cast for just kind of going for it, to like, you know, pulling no punches, pulling no qualms. They really had a lot to say in this movie about like just the world, state of the world as it is, and how everything's just messed up and effed up as it is. Violence is absolutely disgusting. The situation at hand with Richard Brake's character is disgusting, and it feels like, you know, somewhere like Bone Tomahawk, where it is what it is. Like, it's not, there's some people that are just not gonna, they're gonna be put off by this movie, like Malignant. They're just not gonna be on board with it. And you know what? I absolutely was. I absolutely love this movie. I don't know if I'll put it in my top 10, but it's definitely an honorable mention. And it is a true surprise. It really is. Once again, Bill Skarsgård's a producer on this film, and I think once again, Bill Skarsgård's developed a career that is just really fantastic as just a horror icon in a lot of respects. And Georgina Campbell is fantastic. And Justin Long, like I said, is the standout of this movie. So with that said, that is the spoiler discussion of Barbarian. If you like these types of films, if you like these horror films, definitely check this one out. Hopefully you've seen it now that I've talked about it, but hopefully you've seen it. But yeah, it's great. It really is. So with that said, that's going to be my take on Barbarian. Definitely recommend it if you like these types of films. So, but with that said, that'll do it. That'll be my spoiler discussion, Andy Explains review of Barbarian, now out in theaters. So with that said, thank you so much for watching. Comments below, are you interested in seeing this movie? If you did see this movie, now you've seen the spoiler discussion, tell me what you think overall. But with that said, thank you so much. And if you like what you see in this video, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell, top the funnels coming in next. If you like the video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.